on Friday we talked about the first part of objections. We run into prospects that use other agencies. We run into prospects that claim to collect all accounts in-house. Sometimes we run into the prospect that is too busy and has no time to talk or get accounts ready. We run into prospects that use factoring companies, or prospects that claim they have no delinquencies or charge-offs. They have no need whatsoever. We run into prospects that will stall, they want to put off talking about it, or they continue to request information. If any of you guys missed any of these, you can go back to our YouTube channel by clicking the YouTube button on our webpage and go back over that video where we covered those objections, and all of this stuff is also going to be in our sales training material in the chapter on handling objections. But we go over them here so we can talk about them in more detail. Right now we want to discuss the prospects that have had a bad experience with another agency. Okay. Now, sometimes we're going to run into this. There are many reasons that a prospect can have a bad experience with another agency. Sometimes it could be that that they simply don't get status reports enough, or the agency takes too long to remit their money. Sometimes we run into prospects that have run into agencies that don't remit their money at all. And, you know, typically when you run into that prospect, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth with collection agencies. But they can still be closed, and they still need someone to collect whatever's delinquent. And the point is, I'm going to use one of Reiner's statements on this. Look, if you went out and had a bad steak, did you stop eating steak? I know I didn't. I've had bad steaks, and man, I love steaks. You know, sometimes you go to a restaurant and their steak is awful. And you know, at that point, that you don't go back to that restaurant. You go eat someplace else. And the same thing applies with collection agencies. You know, part of the thing in that is using some of these fly-by-night agencies that are out there. Some of them are in states that do not require licensing or bonding, and just anybody can open up an agency and start collecting somebody else's money. And in those states, that's going to happen. California is one of them. We actually have a client that was in this particular situation. They completely swore off collection agencies because they used 3 agencies in the past in California, and all of them provided a negative experience with that client. Now, I can tell you this, out of those 3 agencies, we have already collected the client's money from one of them. We're in litigation against the second one. The third one, we already have a judgment on, and we're attempting to seize assets. And I mean, that's how we handle business here. So first, what we want to do is determine what the nature of that potential client's bad experience was with whatever agency they had a bad experience with. We don't need to know who they are, you know, unless they took their money and didn't pay them, and we have to go in and collect from that agency for them. Then, of course, we need to know what they are, but we need to know what was the nature of the bad experience, because most of the time it's a simple lack of follow-up on the sales end. A lot of salespeople in this industry will write a client and not continue to stay in touch with them. Some agencies don't even have online access, and I know this sounds crazy because we're in 2014, but I brought a guy on last week from another agency, and we were discussing status reports, and they send their status reports out once a month. And guys, once a month is not often enough for a client to get statuses. If that client were to go with an agency that has online access, that would absolutely remedy that situation. Also, if you run into some that have online access with other agencies, find out if it's transparent. Because our company has a tremendous level of transparency with its clients. And they can experience that transparency just by logging in and seeing what we're doing on their accounts. A lot of the companies out there that have online access for their clients will simply provide a status report. Okay, now that status report is only going to give them the status of the claim, which the status of the claim has nothing to do with the collection notes. Well, it has a little bit to do with it, but the point I'm making is the status is not updated often. You know, if we're investigating an account or a company, that may take place for a couple of weeks. We may be in there investigating on a daily basis, and that will be in the notes. It won't be on the status report, it'll be in the actual notes, which of course the client has access to. Sometimes when they look at these status reports and it has a date from a month ago that says investigation in process, and they wonder, what does that mean? Investigation in process, what are they investigating? Well, that's remedied by having access to all of the notes. Something else you want to do is ask an open-ended question. What do you expect of an agency? You know, once you find out the nature of that potential client's bad experience, find out what they expect. And chances are, if they're reasonable about what they expect, they can get that right here with Lyons and Associates. So once you do that, you can get that prospect to talk about his or her experience with whatever agency they had a bad experience with. Of course, encourage them to check us out and give some references, give a satisfied client's name. If you don't have any clients yet, get some names from us. We have plenty to go around. This is going to allow you to offer a solution to that prospect. Because like I said, in many cases, that prospect was simply neglected by another salesperson at another agency. At another agency. And in many cases, it has to do with those darn status reports, because agencies don't send them out weekly or daily or anything like that. They send them out monthly. Some of them send them out twice a month. But the demanding clients that want to be updated on their stuff more than twice a month or once a month, they need this information. And if they're with an agency that does not have online access, or if their online access simply gives them just a status report, it doesn't actually give them the who, the what, the where, the how, and the why of what's going on with the account, they have to call that sales rep and ask the sales rep what's going on. And what happens in that situation is the sales rep, his job is to make sales, to bring in new business, so he or she can continue to make commission, because that's the name of this game. And a lot of times, what I've seen at other agencies, when a client keeps hounding a sales rep for statuses on accounts, that sales rep begins to ignore that client. And it's simple human nature. So to avoid us running into that, I made sure that our online access is transparent. You know, it's for the client's benefit, and it's for your benefit as an account executive with us, so you can spend less time statting your clients and more time talking to them about business. It makes sense. Some of the other things that will cause bad experiences are the agencies that have a slow remit policy. And by slow, I mean 30 days. A 30-day remit policy is a thing of the past. Okay? These days, if an agency is to be successful, they have to remit faster. Now, some of them have adopted policies to remit after 10 days or after 15 days, which is absolutely fantastic. They've cut that time in half for their clients. Of course, we decided we wanted to push that envelope a little further, and we remit when it clears our trust account. And the way our accounting handles the remits, if a debtor's check comes in and it's drawn on a bank that is on the national network, which is a computerized banking network, not all banks are on it, their remit is 5 business days. Okay. If the check's drawn on a tiny little credit union that's going to take longer to clear, it's a 10-day remit. So a lot of the payments clients get from us on remits are within a matter of days from the time that the payment was made. So in any way you look at it, it's faster, it's more efficient, and it creates happier clients. Also, something to consider why they may not be happy or have had a bad experience with another agency: yields. Yields are one of the most important things when you're collecting money. Yields is simply this. If a client places a certain number of accounts with us, let's use $100,000 worth of placements as an example. The yield simply means how much are we going to collect out of that $100,000. Okay. Historically, across the board, our yields average out to about 45%. Right now, they're a little higher than that, but they average out to about 45. Okay. That doesn't mean we're going to get that for every client, but on the other hand, it means we're going to get a lot higher than that for some clients. It depends on their paper, how much paper they've placed with you. If, for example, if they've only placed one account, then we have pretty much a 50-50 chance of collecting it in full. And typically one account is not really a fair test of what we can actually do. Or sometimes you'll run into clients that historically place old business. They wait till it's completely dead. You know, I've been chasing this for a year and now they're out of business. I guess I better place it for collections. Well, guys, we're not going to collect that. We might, but the chances are very, very little. Now, one of the things that causes agencies to have lower yields is the fact that most agencies are now paying their collectors on an hourly basis or straight salary. And I'm going to tell you what happens to a collector that is accustomed to being paid on commission, and you just say, okay, we're just going to pay you this no matter what you do. He loses his money motivation. And I can tell you from personal experience, one of the previous agencies I worked for wanted to change me from straight commission to a $50K annual salary. And I was making over twice that much. Can you imagine what my response was to them on their salary? My response is, yeah, you can take that and let me show you where you can stick it. You're not getting a 2-week notice. You're not getting anything. I'm clearing out my desk. I'm gone. See you later. Sell that to somebody else. I want to be paid on commission because I want to be paid for what I bring in. Because I know I'm a performer. I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to bring in the revenue. And that's pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back and made me start doing this on my own and get to the point to where I have an agency that's bringing other people on, because I said, look, man, I'm not going to go to work for anybody else anymore. I want to do this on straight commission. I want to get paid for what I bring in, and that's what I did. One of the other things that are causing yields to be lower, and guys, just so you know, the industry average in the United States for yields, the recent reports I've read are between 11.7% and 15%. Okay, so what that means is, on average, if a client places $100,000 worth of business with one of these average agencies, they can expect somewhere between $11,700 and $15,000 to be collected. Okay, our historical averages show that out of every 100K, we collect about 45,000, and that's taking the money off the top for the businesses that we have to collect from that go out of business, the ones that go into bankruptcy, the ones that are in serious financial dire straits. Okay, these are the ones that we don't collect from, obviously. Another dilemma with agencies is a lot of your guys out there are adopting FDCPA regulations in their commercial divisions. If you guys look around, you'll see that a lot of the agencies out there collect commercial business and consumer business. And a good portion of these guys have adopted policies across the board to force their collectors to follow FDCPA regulations on commercial paper. The FDCPA is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is in place to prevent collectors from handling consumers, not commercial entities, consumers, with unfair collection practices. This is something that is crippling the commercial divisions in some agencies because it ties their collectors' hands. You know, according to the FDCPA, on a consumer debt, consumer, not commercial, if a collector contacts, either by face-to-face contact or by telephone, if they contact a consumer and that consumer says, you have to cease and desist contacting me, that collector has to do it. In commercial business, for us to cease and desist, they need to be represented by counsel, and we need a letter of representation from that counsel, or we will not cease and desist. And even if they are represented by counsel, that is not going to stop our investigator from interviewing vendors that they do business with. It's not going to stop our investigators from interviewing the bank officer that they do business with at whatever fiduciary relationships they have. It's not going to stop any of that. However, on a consumer debt, you can't keep doing that stuff because of the FDCPA. Additionally, even if the lawyer says we have to cease and desist, okay, we won't call your debtor, we won't visit your debtor, we won't send letters to your debtor, we won't send faxes to your debtor, we won't send emails. We'll just file suit against your debtor. And we always have every right to do that. This is one of the things that other agencies are getting away from. And of course, what that means is when they adopt these policies, they collect less money, and their clients are unhappy. There's an agency down the street from me that's a PI that I'm personal friends with down here. He was working there for a little while, a few months back, and he told me their policy, they just adopted a policy that if a debtor tells them, and this is commercial debt, if they say, I dispute the account, you know, which a dispute can be anything. You know, a dispute can be, okay, yeah, I owe 3 of these invoices, but this last one, I didn't receive the material. I dispute that. Their policy is to close that account, to close it, to not work it anymore. It's not worth the trouble to attempt to arbitrate the dispute and see if a settlement can be reached. It's not worth their time. Guys, that's preposterous. You know how much money they're leaving on the table? So many companies that we attempt to collect from will tell us, there's a dispute. I'm calling my lawyer. Okay. Call your lawyer. Because I'm here to tell you, my collectors eat lawyers for breakfast. They don't even put them in a cereal bowl and pour some milk on them. They just eat them raw. And the fact is, when the attorney comes in, the attorney, his or her first point is going to be to try to make the collector go away. That's going to be their first goal. If they cannot make the collector go away, their second goal is to try and reach some type of settlement agreement, which, what that means is there's still money on the table. And the point there is most agencies go after the easy money only. So whatever the problem is, whatever the client has had a bad experience with, we can assure them that there is a major difference in doing business with Lyons and Associates compared to other agencies. And guys, if you need references, ask somebody. We have an unusually high rate of very satisfied clients. And, well, it's unusual looking at collection agencies, but it's not unusual for us. I think for the remainder of this forum, we're going to open up the floor for questions, and we'll just do a part 3 on objections, because I know we have had a few people running into prospects that have had bad experiences. So let's address all of these points, and on Friday we can go after the rest of the common objections, which is, you know, the prospect's too busy, or they claim the rate's too high, or they have accounts insured or only sell on COD, really miscellaneous objections. But the prospect who's had a bad experience will conclude the meat and potatoes of the objections. The rest of them are really just, it's stuff you'll run into occasionally, but it's not something that I feel we need to address right now, so we can do it Friday, and that'll give us time to get in here and hear any questions or any situations that have to do with clients having a bad experience with another agency. So, guys, the floor is open. Ask away.
Mike, well, what's the effects on a business once the debt goes into collections? Unlike consumer debt, where we're always concerned about our FICO score, and you know, if you go into collections, you're late on a credit card, it's immediately 30 days late. well, what's the effects on a business, and are most banks looking at Dun and Bradstreet reports still today?
Um, D&B reports are still used. There are numerous competitors now. Well, we lost Reiner. I guess he's going to have to go back and watch this to to get what I'm going to say. Um, there are several reporting agencies out there for commercial now, but it's not as common as it used to be. Okay, you got back fast. I was saying you're going to have to go back and watch this again, but I'll just repeat myself. There are several ways to report business debts these days, and it's not as prevalent as it used to be. What companies are looking at these days are annual revenue, they're looking at trade references, they're looking at sometimes bank statements so they can determine revenue, and a lot of companies still look at the different business credit reports that are available to them, but it's not something that's centralized like it used to be. You know, back in the day, they could pull a D&B report and call it a day. Well, things are a little different these days. There's a lot more going on in credit reporting. There's competition for companies that do credit reporting, and there's other companies out there now that do business credit reporting. So most of what is done to determine whether you want to do business with somebody or not is done by checking vendor references, checking a bank reference, sometimes looking at balance sheets, things like that. The credit qualification process in the commercial sector has changed in past years. Reiner, what other questions do you have about this? I'm sure I didn't answer everything you have there.
Well, I know that as a company grows today and tries to get new equipment or expand their production floor, machinery or what have have to resort to leasing. I know when I had my company, I had to go and provide the income that was coming in more so in the trade references that I had built up. And I know that I was able to secure my lease right away, which was a much cheaper way to buy my carpet cleaning van and equipment that I needed. And I did pay it off and own it outright when I sold my business. But that's an avenue that most businesses have to resort to. So I would think that just as a consumer, we have to be very conscientious of how we're paying our bills and whether it ever goes into collections, whether by mistake or intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, one of the things that that companies will do also is require a personal guarantee from one of the officers of the company, and they will run a personal credit check on that officer of the company. For example, I know we've had some questions about bonding lately. Um, so I'll use this as an example because it'll kind of answer another question with just saying one answer. For us to get bonded as an agency, the different sureties that bond us base what our rate is going to be on personal credit history. Okay, the when we got our agency bonds and they rerun them when we renew them every year, they do it strictly on personal history. Now the only part of the business history they looked at is, have you ever had any issues with your bonds, either from not paying a client and having them file a claim on your bond, or from violating some government regulation in whatever state and having them come after the bond. And of course the answer to that is no, we haven't. But that's something else that companies are doing now, and specifically used bonding, because that's something that's actually something that has wreaked some havoc on the transportation industry, which is an industry that we as an agency see a lot of business from, because some of these guys that are brokers do not have clean personal histories, and when you obtain a bond that's $75,000, you're required to pay a percentage of that as your premium. And guys, they don't do this in monthly payments. If you want to be bonded, you got to cough up all the money at one time. That's how it works. They don't finance it. So that's one of the reasons we're going after transportation, because their requirements went from 10 to 75K, and some of these guys who were running smaller operations, or guys that had less than perfect credit histories, the bond costs go up to 15%, sometimes more. And to pay 15% on a $75,000 bond, that's what, $11,250? That's a nice chunk of change to cough up. Whereas somebody who has a good history is going to pay about 1.5%. By the way, if you're wondering what we pay, it's 1.5%. So our bonds aren't expensive. The costs add up, but it's part of doing business. It's part of our business expenses. So it's what we have to do to protect our clients, or really to protect our clients, we need to run our business right. The bonds are there. Some of them are, some states require them, of course, but they're really there as a peace of mind for the client, so they can say, oh, it's safe, they're bonded. Questions. Travis, haven't heard from you in a while, buddy. Talk to me.
How you been, Mike?
I've been excellent.
Ah, excellent. I do have a quick question for you. I've been calling some stuff in California, and I've gotten asked twice so far where I'm located, because if you look at my number, it's a California number.
Okay.
So what I've told them, I let them basically know that we are based out of Louisiana, bonded in, you know, all the states to do commercial debt recovery.
Yeah, and you don't need to get into licensing and bonding unless they specifically ask about it. Um, that's something that most agencies are required to do. So it's kind of a given that we should be. I mean, it's a pretty normal practice in doing business as a collection agency. The only reason we mention it on our website, on our homepage, is honestly, I'm sick of people asking about it. Look, we're compliant. We're required to be compliant to stay in business. And you know, I get kind of tired of of answering the same question. So there it is. As far as where you're located, we're based out of Louisiana. We have reach anywhere in the country. It does not matter where their debtor is. We can reach out and touch them face to face. We can reach out and touch them anywhere. If they want to know where you're personally located, tell them where you're personally located. We don't have anything to hide. And if they think that you being in Georgia is going to stop us from collecting in California, I have a list of satisfied clients in California that we have collected bunches and bunches of money for. So if they're using that as an excuse, find out what their real problem is, because it's not where you're located or where I'm located. It's whether or not we can be effective in their particular jurisdiction, or actually in their debtor's particular jurisdiction, because some of these guys aren't going to just do business locally, okay? Some of them are going to do business nationwide. Some of them will do business all over the state of California. So if they want to know if we have people in California, absolutely. We've got a lot of people in California. What else are you running into with that, Travis?
I'm also, now I've spoken with, actually here lately, I've hit a patch of a lot of businesses that have, they have high consumer debt, but they might have maybe one or two commercial pieces a year, if that. You know, like little asphalt companies, landscaping companies, you know, smaller. They're not mom and pops, but I mean, they're, you know, they have size, but they don't do a lot of commercial work. Now, how would you advise me to handle them in the future?
I would get rid of them. I wouldn't waste my time. Or if somebody's strictly or primarily doing consumer, we're not the agency for them. We don't handle consumer debt because it's too much headache for too small of a paycheck. And I'm not interested in too much headache for too small of a paycheck, and you shouldn't be either. When they tell you that, you know, you may want to look into what kind of company they are. Every once in a while, on those construction leads out west, you are going to run into some of these. What you want to find is the companies that sell to contractors. Now, also, you may want to find out if what they consider consumer is, you know, this guy's got a handyman business, he's a one-man show, a sole proprietor, but he's a licensed and bonded contractor. Okay, that's still a commercial debt. no matter if he's a one-man show or not. So that may be a question to ask, because if they're an asphalt place, how many consumers do you know that lay their own asphalt? I'm just curious.
None.
That's the exact
They
same
always pay to
amount.
get it done.
Exactly, and that's the exact same amount that I know personally. I don't know any of them. You know, if I had to lay asphalt, I'd call somebody to do it. So you might want to call them back. Asphalt's good business. Ready mix is good business. Anything in California that sells to contractors. Rick's your mentor. Ask him how much money he's made off of that stuff.
Okay.
He may not give you a number, but even if he doesn't give you a number, he'll tell you he's done well with it. And if you have some of those leads in there, it's business that we have a lot of teeth on. And by a lot of teeth, I mean there is a lot we can do to a contractor in that particular state to force him to pay us. And when I say force, I absolutely, positively mean force. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not sidestepping it. We force them to pay us. And it doesn't work in every situation, but in a lot of them it does. Now, that business is going to be more difficult to come by sometimes. It's going to be more difficult to land, but when you land it, it's money. It is money. It's money in the bank. Just like transportation. Transportation's money in the bank. Okay, you bring in transportation paper that is a carrier going after a broker, and it's not an overaged account, meaning it's at least under a year old. It's money in the bank in most cases. On transportation paper like that, our yields are literally about 70%. I kid you not. On that particular type of paper, carrier against broker, 70% yield. Construction against contractors, or construction supply, construction supply against contractors. In the western states, our yields are even higher than 70%. And that's crazy. And the reason it's crazy is because other agencies don't know what to do with the paper. I'll give you a story about an agency whose name I won't mention that had me teaching their collectors how to collect contractor paper. Well, most of them wouldn't listen, couldn't get it through their heads, the things that have to be done. And it wasn't really that they didn't listen and they didn't understand it. It was the fact that a lot of them didn't really want to take the time to learn how to understand it and become successful in that paper. And at that particular agency, I made a ton of money because I told the salespeople there, I said, look, you have construction stuff that the other collectors aren't collecting for your clients, call the collection manager, have the stuff kicked to me. I'll handle it for you. Any of this that they're dropping the ball on, bring it. I'm going to get your client their money. And I developed a serious reputation for that within that agency, and that's how I became the guy who teaches it. And by the way, Tom Shanahan is our guy who would teach transportation at other agencies. And these are the two most difficult to collect industries in the entire realm of commercial collections. The two most difficult and the two easiest if you know what you're doing. It's a beautiful thing. And we have both of those industries covered. So there's going to be clients that you run into that say, oh, agencies can't collect this stuff. You're right. Agencies can't. Lyons and Associates can. That stuff is gold. It's like money in the bank. Every time I see a piece of transportation paper come in or a construction supply account come in against a contractor in one of the western states, I get excited because I know exactly what's going to happen. I smell money. It's like, all right, paycheck. What else? What else do we have? Wait, before we go on, Travis, did I answer your questions?
Oh yes, yes, that was very nice, very nice. I definitely took some very good notes there. Tried to catch a verbatim so that way the next time I get asked a certain question or am in a certain type of situation, I can always use those and just spit them right off the cuff, because definitely good stuff. I mean, it's to have that high of a collection. I mean, just for me to know that as a account executive is a lot. It's a confident booster at the end of the day, because I know now that, you know, regardless to who I'm talking to, we're going to get your money. I mean, bottom line, hands down, we're going to collect for you. And that's something that's really, I feel that's very important for an account executive to know and have that type of confidence in whoever I call as a lead.
And let me give you an example and ask Rick about this one. I can't mention their name because we're on air, but Rick took on a factoring company a couple of months ago that factors transportation carriers only. The business they gave us was mostly second placements behind an agency who claims to be the go-to guys for transportation. That's all they do is transportation paper. That's their bread and butter. It's all they do. That's what they're known for. They're the best at it in their own eyes. We took the paper behind them. We took the accounts that they could not collect for this factoring company and collected 52% of them. 52% on second placements. Do you know how often that happens at agencies? I'll give you a hint. It's the same number of people that you know who lay their own asphalt. But that's serious. And look, I absolutely have the numbers to prove it. I'm not just saying this. I can show you. Okay, and Rick can show you. Rick can show you their performance report and say, look, Mike's serious about this. And it's not that we're superstars or gods. We just know the industries that we collect in. We know that collections is not about one standard operating procedure across the board. It's about having several different procedures, several different techniques, several different approaches in each different industry, because each industry is going to have a different way to put pressure on a company to make them pay you. Each one's going to be different, and as collectors, if our collectors know these things and they're able to utilize them, well, we become the superstars in the client's eyes, and we're really, honestly, we're just guys that do our jobs. We do them correctly, and yeah, we go the extra mile. We do make extra effort, but that's what business is about. It's about being the best. Reiner told me if you're not first, you're last. I think I heard that in a movie
That's
somewhere.
A true statement.
Too. It is a true statement.
That's a true statement. The second place is the first loser.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I'd like to hear from somebody else now. Reiner, I see you smiling over there, man. Even though you're real tiny on my screen, man, I can still see that smile, man. It's reflecting off of that shiny head of yours.
Yeah, got to keep it buffed.
So what you got, brother?
Well, I think that you know, we just have to have confidence as account executives that we have the best company in the industry behind us that we're supporting, and be able to convey that to our potential client, that we're very serious about getting their business and collecting the debt that's owed to them. So why are they sitting back taking the casual approach, as I like to say? You know, or if you're serious, let's get it and get it done. Otherwise, you're wasting another day. So why put off what we can do today? I'm here to help you right now. And take that approach.
Absolutely, guys. And I want to point something out about higher yields than other agencies and higher commissions than other agencies. That means you guys as account executives, okay, the higher commissions that's obvious. You have the potential to make more money than if you worked at a competitor agency. Okay, but the fact that we collect 3 times the money that they do, let's look at that also. That exponentially increases the opportunity, the fact of the actual results, because we have new client bonuses, but we get paid to bring in fee. That's the bottom line. We're paid to bring in collectible accounts that produce fee. That's how we make our money. And it's not just about higher commissions, it's about higher yields. For example, even if you were to get lucky enough to stumble across another agency that pays 30%, which probably not many of those out there, if there are any, are they going to produce the yields? That's the other question. And it's about being first. It's about it's not a game that we have to be the winner in, but we want to be the winners. That's it. We all want to be the best, so that is what it's about. Lori, what you got?
Well, actually, I think I'd already talked to you about the one that I had about the bad experience, so I don't have anything new to share. I think it pretty much you summed it up, and I haven't run into it since then.
Awesome. And yeah, it's not something you run into often, but it is something you run into.
Have you ever heard the term, though, fealty and MOS?
Come again?
It's fealty and MOS.
MOF as in Frank?
S as in Sam.
Um,
And I'm not sure I heard her right, but that's what it sounded like to me. And that kind of perplexed me because it wasn't something that I could identify with. So
are they a public company?
um, it was a corporate call, and she was, she was really like, she said, look, we use Fealty and MOS, click. So that's what it sounded like, but she
Did
was
you
rapidly speaking.
did did you say field team?
It sounds like she was saying Fealty.
I don't know who that is,
Okay, maybe it's a name of something, and I just didn't hear it good.
and the reason I asked you if they were a public company, I didn't know if it was a term that I didn't know of that's used by public companies because I don't know everything about finance. I probably have a thing or two I need to learn. I know a lot, but I don't proclaim to know everything. Um,
And I might not have heard her right because she was hanging up as she was saying it, so I don't know. Maybe I misheard, but I thought I would ask in case you did know because it's what it sounded like to me.
well, whoever that is, I've never heard of them, and I've been in this business for 22 years. If I haven't heard of them, they're not a player. So, it may be.
Thank you.
She may just have been telling you about whatever agency they use. I don't know. It could be a term. It could be an agency. Whatever it is, I have no clue. And when I don't have a clue, I'm happy to tell you.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. Brittany, haven't heard from you yet. Talk to me. All right.
Okay, can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning. Now I can hear you. I can hear
Give me
you.
just a second, Michael. Can't hear very much. Okay, how about that?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So how are you today?
I'm excellent. Yourself?
Very good.
Good.
I was talking to Reiner yesterday when I was telling him, you know, a lot of people, like how Cookie had said the lady had hung up. I had a few of those too. I think sometimes it's just the rudeness of people in the industry that you just, you know, you can't get over.
Yeah, and that's something that, as inside salespeople, we will never get past rude people.
No. Or unprofessional.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely get those. You'll get rude. You'll get unprofessional. You'll get everything under the sun. And you know, the only thing with that is don't take it personally.
No, I don't. You know, hey, I've been making calls my entire life. That's just what I do. You know, you just switch gears for whatever business that you're working. That's all it is. And you can't take it personal because, you know, if you get your feeling hurts, this is the wrong business to be in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I'll be honest with you. When I get my rear end handed to me on a phone call, I still get hurt sometimes, but I can overcome it a whole lot faster than I used to. I started on the phone when I was 15 years old. Okay, and I was selling coupon books over the phone, out of the phone book, you know, calling local people up, and oh man, I was terrible at it. I was terrible. I mean,
we just want to get better over time.
But the thing was, if I would have gotten a job at the grocery store bagging groceries or bringing in the basket, when I was 15 years old, minimum wage was like $3 an hour. And I was like, man, how am I going to take my girlfriend to the movies on this, you know?
Right, right.
So I looked around, and one of my friends said, well, look, man, I'm a telemarketer.
Yeah.
I said, okay, what is that? He says, well, I call people on the phone and sell them stuff. I said, okay, well, I like to talk on the phone. I said, I talk on the phone all the time. Boy, I had no idea what I was in for. But obviously, I still like talking on the phone.
Me too. You know, it's funny, and I'm sure, Dad, I'm sure you can remember this several times, being on the phone and my mom, get off the phone.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now she laughs because I use it for business. I'm like, I'll be at her house and I'm on the phone and talking with this person. She's like, oh, can you just get off the phone? I'm like, business. I gotta work. So, you know, it's how you use it to your advantage, definitely. And I've sold everything under the sun, from real estate to insurance and jewelry and cars and everything else. So this one should be a walk in the park, I think, because it's something that I look at it more as you're not necessarily selling. You're, you know, offering a service to people, which is really important. You know, this is a benefit to them. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Right, exactly. You know, I've done some jewelry too. I did jewelry door to door when I was a teenager. I was one of those guys who had the black velvet rollout. You know, hey, walk into a business and get all the people in the business gathered around and look at my gold chains.
Wait, I can totally beat that one. I can beat that. You know, I'm from Oregon and I'm down here in Phoenix, and I moved here about 16 years ago. And I came down with all the perfume people that were selling perfume. So we'd have, you know, these things of perfume. And, hey, smell this. You'd look good in this. You know that's going to be great for you. And I mean, everywhere. We drive in the car. We drive to Vegas. We drive all over, you know, Arizona, all over the place selling perfume. And, you know, made some decent money, but then the people were just crooks. They took the money. They took the perfume. And after that, that was all she wrote. But that was something else, and not to mention in 110-degree heat down here. Okay, and you know, I'm not trying to be naked. I'm just hot.
Your heat's not that bad in Arizona.
Okay. Not unless you're in air conditioning.
It's not that bad. And let me give you a story about Arizona. I spent about a month in Tucson after Hurricane Katrina.
Okay.
And it was 110, 115 outside, and I was the only idiot driving around in my car with my windows down. And look, I'm not even on cloth seats. I'm on leather seats. You know, I had a Infiniti G35 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving around with the windows down, and I'm like, oh man, this dry heat is so cool. I love it, because I've lived in Louisiana all my life. It's humid.
Yeah.
So the heat that you have there, I like that heat. I like the heat here too. I like the humid heat. I'm a heat person.
It's definitely nice when it's the best time of the year down here. You know, we really love it. It's probably really 4 months of just, you know, kind of unbearable, where you're, you know, hibernating, where people hibernate in the wintertime. In other places, we hibernate in the summer down here. But it's nice to be able to have, you know, your computer and talk and get work done at the same time, and working from home as opposed to having to get up, go drive clear across town, go to work, drive all the way back there, keep in the traffic on time. But it's coming along, so.
Absolutely, and I want to make a point about the conversation you and I just had. Normally in these things we don't talk about stuff that's off subject, and I want to make a point about this and why why it's something we can use as a subject to help us sell. You and I just found some common ground to have a conversation about, and we found a common ground to have a conversation and engage each other. And this is something we do daily in sales. It's not always easy to do, because some people are going to slam the phone in your face and they're not going to allow you to find that common ground. But the point is, when you find it, use it. Use it. It helps build a bond between you and your prospect. And as a result of us having the conversation about the different types of sales, we're beginning to build a bond about sales.
That's right, definitely. We can identify on different levels.
Absolutely, and it's a definite positive thing. So, do I have anything else before we close for the day?
No, thank you for your time.
Not a problem. And guys, these are on air. These Hangouts, what that means is anybody can watch it live while we're broadcasting. What it also means is that if you click on the YouTube button on our website, it'll take you directly to our YouTube channel. Google Plus automatically uploads these to our YouTube channel. So if there's anything in any of these that was missed that you want to go back to for any reason whatsoever, or even just to brush up or hear some of the stuff a second time, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch it. It's a beautiful thing. I used to do these on either conference calls or on Skype, and I came across Hangouts on air, and I was always trying to find a way to tape something off of my screen that's an hour long and have it render without having any mishaps in it. Usually, most of the softwares that render this stuff don't do it right. But so far, I've found that the Hangouts on air are an awesome way to do this, and it puts it right on our YouTube channel. I don't have to upload it. I don't have to put it into anything. It's just automatic. You gotta love that. Technology is a beautiful thing. With that, if there's nothing else, we're going to close and let's make some money.